So, a couple of years ago, I had a summer job at a pretty nice golf course. I split my time between helping members out with their bags, cleaning clubs, storing them, and working behind the register in the pro shop. There was always this one really rude older lady who was always condescending when she talked to me, and instead of asking me to do things, she ordered me to do them, and while they aren't mandatory, she never tipped either. I always put up with it because it wasn't my place to get involved. Fast forward to this week, it's opening day, and I now have a better job and, as a result, a membership at the same club. As I'm loading my own bag onto my cart to go out and play my first round of the year, lo and behold, this lady steps out of her SUV and starts waddling toward me. I immediately knew she was about to ask me to get her clubs, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't get a bit excited about the opportunity to finally fire back. "Hey you, get my clubs on a cart. I'm going to play 9. I told her very calmly that I no longer worked at the club. She basically replied with, "I don't care. You will load my clubs onto the cart or I'll speak with the pro." I told her to go right ahead and she marched into the pro shop. A few minutes later, her and the pro walk out and he notices it's me and tells her that I don't work at the club anymore. At this point, she is fuming. Well then, who is going to load my clubs onto the cart? The pro walked over and helped her out with her clubs, and as she was walking past, she mumbled something at me under her breath and gave me a nasty look. Then the pro made it all worth it when he stopped her and said, "Listen, I understand the confusion and I know you have been a member here for a long time, but they are also a member here and you cannot treat other members like that." I had decided to take a leisurely stroll through the park. As I walked, I couldn't help but notice the gorgeous flowers and the sounds of birds chirping in the distance. I felt like I was in a movie or something, just enjoying my day and taking in the beauty of the world. That's when I saw her, a woman in her mid-40s with a scowl on her face, marching towards me with purpose. I raised an eyebrow, wondering what was going on, but decided to keep walking and see what happened. "Excuse me," she barked at me, her voice grating on my ears. "What do you think you're doing?" I looked around, confused. "Me? I'm just walking through the park. What's going on?" "Don't play dumb with me," she snapped, getting closer. "You know exactly what you did." I really don't," I said, taking a step back. "You stole my purse, you little punk. I saw you, you know. I know it was you." I was stunned. "Ma'am, I swear to you, I didn't steal your purse. I don't even know what you're talking about." "Oh, right. Like I'm going to believe a liar like you. I'm going to call the police and have you arrested for theft." I held up my hands in surrender. "Ma'am, please, just let me explain." But she wasn't listening. She whipped out her phone and started dialing frantically, her face turning red with rage. I could hear her telling someone on the other end that she had caught a thief and to send the cops immediately. I sighed and shook my head, wondering how I had gotten myself into this mess. It wasn't the first time I had been accused of something I didn't do, and I doubted it would be the last. Suddenly, I heard a commotion behind me. I turned around and saw a man in his early 30s, yelling at a group of teenagers who had apparently been throwing rocks at a nearby tree. He was red-faced and angry, his fists clenched at his sides. "Hey, hey," I said, stepping between the man and the teenagers. "What's going on here?" "These little punks were throwing rocks at the tree," the man said, pointing accusingly at the group. "They could have hurt someone, you know." I looked at the teenagers, who were glaring at us. "Guys, come on, don't throw rocks. It's not cool." They just laughed and flipped us off, then took off running. The man turned to me and said, "Thanks for your help, buddy. I don't know what I would have done without you." I shrugged. "No problem. I hate it when people mess with nature like that." We started chatting, and I learned that his name was Tom and he was a freelance writer. We talked about our favorite books and movies, and I realized that we had a lot in common. As we were talking, I saw the woman with the missing purse storming towards us, her face twisted with fury. "There you are!" she screeched, pointing at me. "That's the thief! Get him!" Tom looked at me, then back at the woman. "What's going on here?" "He stole my purse," lunging at me. I backed away, trying to dodge her flailing arms. Ma'am, I already told you I didn't steal your purse. You must have the wrong person. But she wasn't listening. She was consumed with rage and determined to take matters into her own hands. She swung at me wildly, her fists connecting with my chest and face. I stumbled backwards, dazed and disoriented. Tom rushed forward, trying to pull her off of me. "Hey, lady, calm down," he shouted, trying to reason with her. But it was too late. The woman had lost all control, and she was thrashing about wildly, hitting anything and everything in her path. Finally, she managed to connect with Tom's jaw, sending him reeling backwards. He hit the ground hard, and I could see that he was dazed and hurt. That's when I knew I had to act. I stepped forward, my adrenaline pumping, and grabbed the woman's arm. I twisted it behind her back, immobilizing her. "Hey, calm down," I yelled, trying to get her to stop struggling. "You're going to hurt someone." But she was beyond reason. She kicked and screamed, trying to get free. Finally, I managed to subdue her, and she went limp in my arms. I held her there for a moment, catching my breath, then let her go. She stumbled backwards, looking dazed and confused. What just happened?" she asked, looking around. "You lost your temper," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You tried to attack me and my friend here, and then you got your ass kicked. Not your finest moment, I must say." She glared at me, her face contorted with rage. "You're going to pay for this," she said, stalking away. I turned back to Tom, who was just starting to sit up. "You okay?" I asked, offering him a hand. He took it, wincing in pain. "Yeah, I think so. Thanks for your help back there. You really saved my butt." As we were talking, we heard the sound of sirens getting closer. Soon enough, a police car pulled up and 2 officers stepped out. "What's going on here?" one of them asked, eyeing the scene. The woman with the missing purse stepped forward, pointing at me. "That man stole my purse. Arrest him." The officers looked at me skeptically, but I held up my hands ready to cooperate. "Officer, I didn't steal her purse. I don't even know what she's talking about," I said, hoping they would believe me. Tom spoke up. "He's telling the truth. I was here the whole time, and I didn't see him steal anything." The officers looked at each other, then back at the woman. "Ma'am, do you have any proof that this man stole your purse?" The woman hesitated, then shook her head. "No, but I know it was him. I saw him with it." The officers exchanged another glance, then turned back to me. "We're going to need to ask you to come down to the station with us and answer some questions." I nodded, resigned to the fact that I was in for a long afternoon. As I was led away, I could see Tom watching me with concern. I gave him a small wave, then climbed into the back of the police car. At the station, I was questioned for several hours, but I stuck to my story. I didn't steal the woman's purse, and I had no idea what she was talking about. Finally, the officers let me go, but not before warning me that they would be keeping an eye on me. I left the station feeling frustrated and angry, but also relieved that the whole ordeal was over. I'm not usually one to get into these kinds of situations, but let me tell you about the time I found myself in a bizarre encounter at the local grocery store. My name is Avery. I'm a 24-year-old woman who was born and raised in the suburbs of New York City. I'm a graduate student currently studying anthropology at a local university. It was a typical Sunday afternoon, and I was running errands. I had a list of things to get from the grocery store, and I was eager to finish up so I could get back home to do some reading for class. I made my way through the aisles, grabbing what I needed, when suddenly a woman came up to me. "Excuse me, do you work here?" the woman asked me. She was probably in her late 50s with curly gray hair and a slightly frazzled expression. I was taken aback by the question. I was dressed in my usual casual clothes, nothing remotely resembling a store uniform. "No, I don't work here," I replied, trying to sound polite. The woman frowned. "Are you sure? You look like you know your way around this place." I rolled my eyes internally. "I think I can manage to find what I need without actually working here," I said, trying to keep the sarcasm out of my voice. The woman didn't seem deterred. "Well, can you at least help me find the olive oil?" I sighed. "Sure, I think I saw it a few aisles back." I led the woman to the olive oil section and pointed out the different brands. She seemed grateful, but then she asked me another question. Do you know anything about these different types of olive oil? Which one is the best? I tried not to laugh. I'm not exactly an olive oil connoisseur, I said, but I usually go for the one in the green bottle. The woman nodded thoughtfully. Okay, I'll give it a try. I thought that would be the end of it, but the woman kept following me around the store, asking for my advice on everything from produce to cleaning products. I couldn't understand why she was so insistent on getting my help, but I didn't want to be rude. Finally, we got to the checkout line. I put my groceries on the conveyor belt, and the woman put hers behind mine. But then, as the cashier started scanning my items, the woman piped up again. Excuse me, can you tell me if this bread is any good? She asked, holding up a loaf. I couldn't believe it. Lady, I don't work here, I said. My patient's wearing thin. I don't know any more about this bread than you do. The woman looked taken aback, as if it had never occurred to her that I wasn't an employee. Oh, I'm sorry, she said sheepishly. You just seemed so knowledgeable. I couldn't help but laugh. I'm just a customer like you, I said. But thanks for thinking I'm an expert on grocery shopping. As I left the store, I couldn't help but shake my head in disbelief. I had never experienced anything like that before, but at least it made for a good story to tell my friends later. And that, my friends, is the story of how I became an unwitting grocery store employee for an afternoon. It was a hot summer day in Dallas, and I was feeling restless, so I decided to take a walk around the mall. I wasn't there to buy anything, just to stretch my legs and get some exercise. As I walked, I noticed a woman frantically searching through the racks of clothes in a clothing store. Excuse me, can you help me find this dress? She asked me, thrusting a picture in my face. Now, normally I'm not the kind of person who gets involved in other people's business, but something about this woman's desperation struck a chord with me. Plus, she was pretty cute. I decided to play along. Sure thing. What's your name? I asked, trying to sound as professional as possible. My name is Jenny, and I'm 29, she said. All right, Jenny. I'm Brad, and I'm 31. Let's find that dress for you, I replied. Jenny and I searched through the racks for a while, making small talk as we went along. She told me about her job as a graphic designer and how much she loved living in Dallas. I told her about my work as a freelance writer and my love of pizza. We were getting along famously. Finally, after about 20 minutes of searching, we found the dress she was looking for. Jenny practically jumped for joy when she saw it. Oh my God, thank you so much, Brad. I don't know what I would have done without you, she exclaimed. No problem at all, Jenny. It was my pleasure, I said, trying not to blush. Suddenly, a woman appeared behind us, scowling. What are you doing here? Don't you have work to do? She barked at me. I turned around to face her, confused. Excuse me, I said. You heard me. You don't work here, so why are you wasting your time? She said, crossing her arms over her chest. I was just helping Jenny find a dress. We're not causing any harm, I said, trying to keep my cool. I don't care. You're not supposed to be here. Get out, the woman said, pointing towards the door. I could feel my blood start to boil. Who was this woman to tell me what to do? Listen, lady, I don't work here. I was just being a decent human being and helping someone out. If you have a problem with that, tough luck, I spat, my sarcasm dripping like honey. The woman looked taken aback for a moment before scowling again. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, she said. I'm already leaving. Don't worry about it, I said, grabbing Jenny's arm and leading her towards the door. As we walked away, Jenny turned to me with a smile. Thanks again, Brad. You really saved my bacon back there, she said. No problem, Jenny. Maybe we can do it again sometime, I said, winking at her. Jenny laughed, and we parted ways, both feeling a little bit better about the world. As for that woman in the store, well, let's just say she learned not to mess with people who are just trying to do a good deed.